5 primaries tomorrow, including Michigan. That state could be a real contest for Biden and Sanders, and Team Rising is ready to give their predictions.
We're back with Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins and the Daily Caller's Capitol Hill reporter Henry Rogers.
All right, good to see you guys. So we've got actually an interesting tweet. This is from one of my favorite accounts, Political Polling Numbers, and they had how the upcoming states voted in 2016. So let's put that up there. Michael, I want to get you in here because Sanders won Michigan last time around by +2. He won Washington by massive margin. Missouri was actually very close for Hillary. Mississippi, of course, Clinton, actually ran away with it. Idaho and North Dakota, Sanders ran away with it. What do you expect to change this time around?
I mean, I think Biden is going to just overwhelmingly win, especially in Michigan. If you looked at that.
So what makes you say that? That's interesting.
I think Hillary had her own issues that stopped her from being able to perform like the polls showed.
Right.
I think Biden he kind of has that momentum. People are comfortable with him. He doesn't have the level of mistrust that Hillary had. And to be frank, if you looked at that rally he held at University of Michigan yesterday, that crowd was all white. And that's a problem for Sanders because he hasn't been
Michigan. All right.
Yeah, but I mean, Michigan's 4% of Michigan's population is African American.
Yeah, I understand.
So there should at least be a couple people of color in that crowd. Yeah. There were none, and it continues to show. When I was in South Carolina, there was little to no African American or Latinos turning out to his rallies. His whole backbone has been his ability to turn out these people, and he hasn't been able to.
So Henry, let's throw up the RCP polling average for Michigan. Look, most of what you say does generally track what you're saying. This is the latest poll that we have out of there, 54-33. Why is it, do you think, that Sanders is underperforming amongst some of the rural white voters? That's actually what I was tracking. Mostly he lost those voters in Virginia this time around to Biden. Did they just hate Hillary a lot? Or, what is it exactly?
I honestly think so. I think that, Bernie was coming in hoping to win Virginia. Obviously, that didn't happen. Michigan is going to be very similar. I think that Biden, he's really leading ahead in these polls right now. And if he does win Michigan, that's going to be a massive blow to Bernie Sanders. I mean, that's going to be a disaster considering that Bernie Sanders won Michigan last cycle against Hillary.
Well, the swing on this is crazy, too, because I'm looking at this RCP polling data. Sanders was +9 in the state on February 20th.
Right.
Okay, so like less than a month ago. Like +9. I mean, this is Sanders country as far as we knew.
And that's flipped a lot. And that's why I think this is a bad sign for Bernie. I think a lot of it has to do with these endorsements. A lot of it has to do with this flood of endorsements that's been coming in for Biden every single day now, basically every single day. A massive big name Democrat or senator has come out in support for Biden. And that's really not helping Bernie in any way possible, because when you see the establishment behind one candidate, it makes voters in Michigan want to say, all right, I feel comfortable voting for this guy because he's actually has a chance in the main election, and we can actually get together as a party and unite. So that's a problem for Bernie.
Yeah, and Bernie in 2018 endorsed Abdul El-Sayed for governor. Right. And that was a campaign that progressives across the country kind of got behind. Claire Sandberg did the organizing for that. She's now the national organizing director for Bernie Sanders. He lost fairly badly in the primary to Gretchen Whitmer, who went on the back of the kind of resistance coalition to win the governor's mansion, brought in Alyssa Slotkin also as this swing district.
Right, who endorsed Joe Biden.
Both Slotkin and Whitmer have now endorsed Joe Biden, setting up that kind of resistance plus older and moderate black voters that's going to be really tough for him to overcome. And I think on the Hillary Clinton point, I think nobody in Michigan felt like Hillary Clinton would have saved the auto industry.
Absolutely.
And the reason that Obama did so well in 2012, I think, and Clinton did so poorly in the general in 2016 had a lot to do with that auto bailout.
Absolutely.
They thought Romney wanted them to go bankrupt. They thought Republicans wanted them to go bankrupt, but they thought Hillary Clinton definitely would have. Now, Biden, even though he supported NAFTA, he's associated with the auto bailout. And so I think that goes to the rural white voters and also the black voters who are very heavily employed in the auto industry and its supply chains in there. And I think he's going to get some residual benefit from that.
I think so. And I think Sanders has two really big problems. One, Medicare for all. In Michigan, you have all those auto workers who have their health care plans through their union. They want to keep their plan. They don't want to switch over to a Medicare for all plan.
If you look on the polling, it's
but they just
split.
They just redid the new auto workers union.
Had a big strike.
Exactly.
They had a big strike, but part of the thing was they weren't getting paid health care. So I would just say it's not a monolith group. And Sanders
no, but if you overwhelmingly look at union support, I mean, it was the big issue in Vegas. Even though Sanders won in Vegas, union support around Medicare for all was kind of the thing that kept it from being a real blowout in Nevada.
Well, wasn't it a blowout? I mean, these culinary review
it was supposed
all voted.
But I think really what happened there is that demographics also helped a lot.
Yeah.
There's a widely Hispanic.
Let's get to Michigan too. So Sanders actually addressed, is Michigan must win for him? He talked about it this weekend. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Next Tuesday, we heard from Nate Silver at 538. He crunched the numbers and showed you have almost no chance of getting a plurality of delegates without a win in Michigan. Do you agree that Michigan is make or break for you?
No, I don't. I've been asked this make or break, as you well know, George, you know a little bit about politics, make or break since Iowa, since New Hampshire, since Nevada. Every state is important. Michigan is very, very important. Last time around in 2016, I was told, impossible, you can't win Michigan. In fact, the day before the election, we were 20 points down in some of these polls. I think we got a great shot to win in Michigan. I think we got a great shot to win in Washington, maybe some other states as well. We got a long, long way to go to the Democratic nomination, and we're going to fight for every vote that we can get.
Right. I mean, he is certainly right, Michael. As we said, we could throw back that graphic, the tweet showing the upcoming states. It's not just March 10th. There's a debate March 15th. That certainly could change the game. And look, Florida, I don't think anybody thought Sanders was going to win. It's, as you said, is he going to be able to hit the threshold? It's kind of iffy right now in terms of like.
I actually don't think it'll even be close.
You don't think he'll hit a 15% threshold?
No, I don't think there's enough of a demographic to turn out for him. I don't know where he manages to pull those numbers from. He's going to do horribly in South Florida. He's not going to do well on the I-4 corridor.
Right.
And then North Florida.
That is the one area where that Fidel
Alabama.
Castro comment actually certainly could come back to bite him. But at the same time, Illinois was a Clinton +2 state. It's the same deal. Midwest, not necessarily a bad place for Sanders. Clinton and Arizona were tough places, but Arizona this time around, I'm told the campaign going all in on the Latino organizing strategy for the same thing. So Henry, I mean, in terms of the Sanders possible comeback. Is it possible? I say yes.
It is possible. No, listen, it is possible.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
He just needs to come out swinging. I am saying there's a chance. He needs to come out swinging. He needs to come out, bring the guns out. No, he does.
He doesn't have that in him, though.
I know that's the problem. But it needs to happen because otherwise Biden's just going to rise. He has all the support. He has the establishment behind him. There needs to be a difference. There needs to be an attack. There needs to be something that happens here.
Here's the.
Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry.
No. I just do not see Sanders and Biden getting along. Obviously, we know that they have a lot of views that are different from each other. I think that Bernie needs to attack Biden.
But the problem with that is the Sanders campaign has done this whole that establishment is evil. Either you're with Sanders and agree with him 100%, or you're not a real Democrat. And so there's not room for people to move over to the Sanders camp anymore. I think he's built so much ill will, especially as press secretary, attacking so many people online.
Well, is that, that's institutional you're talking about. You're not talking about voters.
Well, I actually do. Because when he talks about South Carolina, he continues to say the establishment's trying to block me.
Right.
No, black people showed up and voted.
I think there's a big difference between Susan Rice endorsing somebody and black voters backing Joe Biden in South Carolina.
But no.
It's not the same. These are not the same thing.
But I think they're actually. I think within the African American community, especially over 35, I think there is an innate turning off to Sanders because of the way he's talking about the establishment, the way he's talking about Obama and Biden, people who they actually, I think, revere.
I don't know if that's true. What do you?
Well, I think it's complicated, and I think Sanders supporters have at times taken too much comfort in the high favorability rating, which is true.
Yeah.
That his numbers were better than anybody else's throughout the campaign when it comes to favorability. And what they missed is that buried in that unfavorability are some extremely unfavorable numbers.
Yeah.
Like these are people in here who have a disdain for Sanders that isn't really matched by just pure ideological concerns. Like there's something personal, there's something visceral going on. It's not just older black voters in South Carolina. Some of these suburban voters have it as well, and they are vocal and they're influential. I'm sure Elizabeth Warren is hearing from them relentlessly as she's deciding.
As do I in my mentions.
Not to endorse.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
They exist, and some element of that is just structural to a political revolution.
Right.
Some of it is probably avoidable had different decisions been made.
I think that's right. So, Henry, I mean, you and I probably agree on this, but I have always said it's because Sanders back to his whole movement in terms of like international solidarity, and not in the terms of the American story. Not in terms of like FDR and all.
And that's what he should have done.
And that's what he should have done. I was at the speech where he talked about where he was like, "Look, I'm not a Democrat." He's like, "I am a Democrat socialist, but that comes from FDR." And I remember hearing that and be like, "Oh, this could be powerful stuff." That didn't really play out on the campaign trail.
No,
you're hearing a lot about capitalism is inherently flawed, and like, look, you can believe that, but like some people still, you know what I mean? Like,
a majority of people don't, and that's what hurts him. I mean, he needed to embrace the America First. He needed to embrace all these things. Instead, he seems like, and a lot of people like Trump and even Biden are making him seem like, you know, a bad person who doesn't even like this country. But that's not true. We know that's not true.
Yeah, of course, it's not true.
It's just you know, because he didn't embrace this America First policy. He didn't embrace this stuff. He hasn't said all these things on the road that he should have. That he should have.
He allowed democratic socialism to be defined instead of him defining democratic socialism.
Exactly.
He had the opportunity to do it, but he allowed everyone else to do it.
It was
for
tough.
him.
I mean, like I said, look, he came back, like 20-point swing in Michigan last time. If ever there was going to be a place where it was going to happen, it probably would be there. Washington is another state I'm watching closely because, Michael, he won it by 45 points last time. As I understand, the polls are actually a little bit closer now for Joe Biden.
I mean, I think that's going to be a really interesting state, especially because you have such a huge outbreak of coronavirus right now. Whether people are going to be willing to go to the polls.
Well,
I think
vote by mail.
Oh, okay. Then I guess that's like
it's one of the only.
There we go. See, this is why we keep you here. Listen, if Biden were to win Washington, then I mean that really is, I think, game over.
I agree with that.
I think one of the things that we're forgetting is electability is the most important thing for Democrats right now. That's what we've said is our kind of measuring stick. And now that you've seen a big coalition around Biden, I think that there's kind of a backlash against Sanders because Biden is now starting to pull away, and people are saying, we believe this is the most electable person. And if you continue to hit Biden, then you're going to injure him going into the general. And so I think that there's now this kind of circling of the wagons, and I think you're going to see Sanders' negatives go up really high the more he continues to go after Biden.
He's in a very tough spot whenever it comes to that. All right, gentlemen, thank you both so much. We're looking forward to that primary tomorrow. And tomorrow on Rising, friend of the show, Harvey K, is going to discuss how progressives move forward after Bernie Sanders' losses on Super Tuesday. And we're going to give it a run-up to the 5 primaries that are taking place tomorrow. Michigan might be a nail-biter.
And entrepreneur Joe Sandberg will say why he's decided to endorse Bernie Sanders.
Kind of an interesting one there from an entrepreneur. All right, we loved Crystal and I. She's not here today, but we loved meeting so much of you in New York City. If you happen to want to come and see us, we're going to be on tour, on book tour, rising.substack.com. You can check all that out. Make sure you guys hit subscribe so you get all the latest election coverage. We love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks, Ryan.